Alright, hey everyone, it's Holy Rise again. We're actually gonna do something a little different than the Cyberstorm Mission 4 Cyberstorm grind I've been doing. This is Mechanized Exploration, also known as M.A.X. This is more of a single player and local game because you do have a hot seat function, so you can play with friends or other people or play everyone by yourself like alone. Network game requires some form of IPX, which is already hard enough to. I shouldn't have to do that. It's already hard enough. You also load in serial if you still rely on that to do stuff. But I know there's something like a M.A.X Reloaded, which is like someone rewrote it to make it easier to connect. But otherwise, it's still a really fun It's another turn-based strategy game. It's grid-based, not hex-based like Mission 4 Cyberstorm. And also, it's a lot. I wouldn't say. I'm trying to think of it's more. I think it's more in depth than Mission 4 Cyberstorm. Mission 4 Cyberstorm, you did like shields and money management and trying to be tactical about your weapon selection and everything. This game I think has a little less room for error than Mission 4 Cyberstorm does. I think it's more. It's kind of like. Oh, actually, hold on. That's not right, but. I mean, I can't. Mission 4 Cyberstorm tends to. Like, if you get yourself out of position, then you're gonna get destroyed pretty quickly. It's gonna be pretty obvious. But with this game, it kind of happens. You can usually have some units get away, but you won't really do much of an impact if they find you, because they know where you are. And well, Mission 4 Cyberstorm, you can do more about running away, a little bit more about running away, fighting in cover, where it's a little more. I feel like it sort of functions like a shooter. This game is definitely, I think, in my opinion, much more tactical and strategic than Mission 4 Cyberstorm is. Because you really need to plan out the buildings, you gotta plan out what your units, what upgrades you want, apply your upgrades. It's just, in terms of, I guess it's sort of to think about like kind of like a grand strategy game. I'm not necessarily say this game necessarily fits that bill, but in a way you do have to build up your complex, as it's known in this game, or base, if you want to call it that, from nothing all the way up until have a large sprawling complex, even multiple complexes, and then manage your units correctly to where usually there's two goals: it's get enough points, or as I like to try to play it, just set it so you just destroy everybody. So I'm actually going to continue from my training missions that I did a while back. Actually, I'm not training missions. I only ever posted one video, I think, a year ago or something, and it was mining and storage. I think, like I said in the description, this mission was not hard. I mean, training missions don't exactly do the best way of really training you. They just tell you to do something, although they kind of explain it, so it's not, it's not lost. But I mean, I might just leave it up there. And as far as I know, these missions are pretty quick, from what I remember. Although some of the later ones take a little bit, 15 in total. So I'll just go through the first 3, and then check the video and just post timestamps. So let's go mining and storage. So usually you see these other 3 when you're doing custom games or hot seats, or ones in multiplayer. This is how much credits you have to start the game. So usually, normally in custom games and stuff like that, you start the game with credits, which you use to purchase units, fill up trucks and constructors, engineers with material, which then gets put on the battlefield. So you kind of customize your starting force, like most like some strategy, usually some games where you can kind of customize your character, or your force or whatever before you go in. This one's about, I think, how often mining materials show up, like raw material which you need to build stuff, like buildings, units, stuff like that. Fuel is needed for power, so you can power the factories and the mining stations you need to acquire materials and build things. And then gold is for upgrades directly to a unit or a building. And then you get alien derelicts, I think they call it, which is basically just alien versions are usually just slightly more powerful of a base unit, but you can't upgrade them. You have to fight with the alien unit, and then it'll get a random upgrade. So you can upgrade them, but you can't just like stick it in like a depot or something. Probably should make another basics video like I did with Cyberstorm on this game. Although this game basic video will probably be like, if I really wanted to explain it, it would take like 4 hours, maybe, because it gets kind of complicated. I think it's not so complicated in some way. You have to just explain a lot. And this was the victory condition. It was like points on this side where my cursor is, and then turns over here. And then what I like doing is I just put it to like 999, and then I just effectively fight to the death. Either way, whatever you do, it's still points based. But you know, if you kill everybody, you don't have to worry about points. There is simultaneous moves, which is everyone just moves at once. I found it's a little bit easier with turn based because simultaneous moves feels kind of clunky in the way it's implemented in this game. Although for some, and you can't really do it on a hot seat because, well, you know, you have one person playing at a time, so you really can't have all 4 people doing it. You might be able to do this like multiplayer, which is still kind of hard to do. I still haven't figured it out. And then I just find turn-based to be so much easier with this game. And then yeah, you know, you have your turn limit, and end turn is just after you finish your turn, it's the delay it takes to go to the next turn. And then you know, you have your computer opponent. So extremely easy, even a penalty. Some slightly advanced tactics. Less stupid. I've had an average computer once try to rush me with a ton of scouts once. A little weird. So I start Veil with no advantages, and then they just start giving it probably even smarter, and then they just give like tons of production because, you know. Well, it's the first mission, and there's no enemies, so I can kind of just throw this on God difficulty and not care. So here we go. It gives you names, and then it tells you, you know, some of your stuff up here. This is some cheesy animation, I guess. I guess I'll just go over the interface real quick. I guess I can make this like a training video and then explain the basics as I'm doing training. So, scroll speed's a little big. So, files is just where you save and quit. And also you can load your game back up, and then you can kind of click here and it'll save. You can actually hold a lot of saves. Up to 100 saves if you really grind this game. Preferences is just your options kind of menu. The music is, I don't know, usually I have music going, so it's all turn it on. The voice disabled. The voice annoys me in this game, so I usually turn it off. Autosave is if you want to autosave. I usually leave autosave on in this game just because it helps if you have a backup save in case the game suddenly crashes for no reason. And it will crash for no reason. I've had that happen before. I don't know what causes it. I've seen the error message a few times, but I can never seem to decipher it. You can change your player name. You can do this for each player if you're playing like a hot seat game. I haven't worked with IPX enough to understand that. Click to scroll, so I guess if you want to get the edge, you have to click to scroll. Track select the unit. Auto select next unit. I'm assuming this means when you're done with the unit, it'll go to the next unit. In my experience, auto unit cycle tends to screw you over a little bit, because especially if you're done, it like forces you over. There's a game on the Xbox like Civilization Revolution. It auto unit cycles if you stop a unit first, you're supposedly done with the unit, or you press a button, it'll go to the next unit, and you have to fight the camera. Scroll speed is just how fast. And you can adjust turn time and end turn time manually, I believe. And then it tells you your play mode and victory condition, how good the AI is. This one's usually kind of important, is halt movement when your enemy is detected. Usually this is pretty safe if you're approaching enemies and you need to have it stop for you, or if you're not paying attention. Usually in some cases, sometimes you can run past enemy defenses. Like if they have an aircraft or something, you just run right past. That usually doesn't happen because you pretty much get shot at because your guy stops and you get shot at. You know, can't shoot you on the way. Like everything has to stop and then shoot. Although sometimes you can get blown up while moving, like mine stuff. I'm actually not sure what this means. And then animate the effects is like, you know, shooting the, like a type of tank fire or something. That's pretty simple enough, so I'll just get done right here. That's the turn number. This is if you have like a timer going. I don't have a timer on. This just button centers it on the unit. I'm actually gonna zoom out a little bit. So like zooming out, but I might just do this since it's easier to see. Locking a unit, if you click on something, it'll usually an enemy, or a bunch of enemy units that you can see on radar. You can see it'll like show you the scan range and their range. I usually find it pretty good for like long range units and scanners, so you can know what they can see and what they can't hit. So so you can remember, so you're not risking going in there and getting hit. So this is more useful on enemies, and that won't be useful on you. This is just cycling through units. I think this just stops whatever it's doing. This question mark can help explain some of the things I'm explaining. Also, it can give you shortcuts right here with the keys menu, and it'll tell you the game shortcuts. I'll go through that more in depth later. This is just your zoom. You can drag it along here like this. Dragging it far out will actually just show you the whole map, and then you can just zoom in right to up close. Survey will show you when you have surveyors, they survey the land, and it tells you where mineral and fuel and gold deposits are. So right here, you can see I have a 12 on mining station. Normally you'll have 14 for your first one, so it can go up to 12 on material a turn. And then I had, I think, 4 fuel because I saw it had 2, it's using 2, and then it gets 2 per turn. But I don't have fuel tank, so that's gonna get lost. And then hits, which is the health of everything. Scan, which lets you know what your building or unit can see. Name shows you the name. I'll leave those on for the training purpose. I don't really know range for anything right now. Range shows you how far a combat unit can hit. Explain scan. Grid is just a grid. You might find this easier for clicking things. Ammos sound like, ammos only that's left. Some of these are really basic functions, so I'll find myself explaining over them. I'll go more in depth in the video later. Status will let you know if a unit still has movement, or has finished moving, or has fired their shots, things like that. Or it's even, I don't know if it shows it's disabled. And then colors has a box. Colors is easy to identify enemy units or your own, or it lets you know if there's still an alien unit there. Usually alien units are like a white compared to a gray. But alright, I'll explain that twice to zoom. And TNT just, I think if you click TNT, it'll only show you military units, and then click it off to show everything else. This is your coordinates, so wherever your cursor is, it'll show you coordinates. And this right here will show you the name. I guess I'll try to focus on just what the training mission is doing. I was kind of just really quick, kind of rush rundown of what everything is, or not everything, but I guess the interface. But yeah, so this is the engineer building screen. This right here is just where your timer will be in case you have a timer. But right here, it's kind of sort of like does a pretty good job. I think it does a pretty good job explaining what it does. Because it tells you, so storage unit is hold raw materials, mining stations produce raw materials every turn. To save extra raw materials, a mining station must be connected to a storage unit. Now that can be done in 2 ways. You can use connectors to connect a storage unit to a mining station, or use a storage unit, just put it right next to the mining station. Because if you put a building right next to another building, they'll connect each other. And when it comes to like storage units, as long as the storage unit in some way, whether next to it or even like the longest string of connectors and buildings, as long as it's connected to that mining station, or even a group of mining stations, it can receive raw material. Same with fuel and gold. Usually you'll find yourself having more storage units, because all fuel helps you with power and gold helps you with upgrades. You need raw material. You usually need raw material the most. But also only mining stations can get this. You can't just, you know, like build a fuel tank on that fuel right there and it'll start getting the fuel. You have to have mining stations for that. So, check. One material, one fuel. Alright. So that means really all I would have to do is so that holds 25 cargo for each mining station. Storage units are 50. Cargo total. Yeah, if you put on stuff, I'll kind of explain it up here. Produce raw material, fuel, and gold every turn. Building supposed to be connected to the mine. Use the resources the mine produces. Now usually that is true. Although sometimes you can do something like we get fuel in a fuel tank, and then have have like storage unit full of raw material, and then have like a power generator and then like a factory not connected to the mining station, then it will still operate. So while it does usually have to be connected to the mine, initially you'll have everything connected to your mining station. You can, branch out with like supply trucks. It's not like everything has to be ultimately connected to your mining station, although it's generally how you want to do things. But I guess I'll just build a connector so I show you guys how this works. Yep, connectors take one turn, fuel tanks take one turn. Because there's no other players in the game, my turns will just fly right by. So yeah, connectors units can go through connectors, they can go under, they can fly over them, no problem. Connectors are pretty easy to break, although generally for the most part you use these to connect. You still want, you use these to connect buildings but still have your units move through, because you don't want to make a giant string of like storage units to connect it to another mining station or something. So I'm just gonna build I'm gonna accelerate the building of the fuel tank. This will make it go faster, but you'll use more resources. You can also do this with constructors, which make larger buildings. Engineers usually make smaller ones. Also, you can do this with factories, speed up the production, use more raw material return, but you get units pumped out faster. So see right here, I've got 12 material, and I just need to store 1 fuel. So next turn I'll have this training exercise done. And I guess it's called Expert, but it's basically just transfer. So because my engineer they also next to that line, but I'll still do it up here. As long as like a fuel tank or an engineer or supply truck, I guess for this example for raw material, if you have a constructor, engineer, supply truck, or cargo ship, it's connected to, or it's right next to a building that's ultimately connected to raw material in some way, you can send the material over. So like I could have a mining station, out right here, and I could have like 2 fuel tanks here and have it connected like that, and I would still be able to get raw material from the mining station if it was still there, because I can just send it along the series of connectors. So, oh yeah, right, I forgot. I turned off the fuel because I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I also wanted to mention something. If you're producing raw material, fuel, or gold, and your reserves are full, or you don't even have storage to hold your reserves, you will lose it. Because you can't store it, just gets thrown somewhere, I guess, I don't know. Okay, it said 1 material and 1 fuel. Material storage building, even though they call it a storage unit. Okay, I assumed it was just because this technically holds material. That's what it said. but whatever. Yep, see it holds, this only holds 25, that can already hold half of it. So, I guess. So that was the first one. Yeah, this is material storage unit, it's called storage unit. So yeah, I thought because the objective says 1 material, 1 fuel, but you still need to build it, even though you get 1 material from the landing station because you can hold it. The objective should have said, you know, build a storage unit, a fuel tank, and connect to the mining station. Alright, whatever. Yep, construct a light vehicle plant and a gun turret. So you'll see this one, a factory and a defense building. Engineers can only produce, defense buildings are exclusive to engineers, so you can have a constructor produce a defense building, but constructors are only allowed, can produce factories. Engineers can't. Let's go ahead. I don't believe you fight anybody on this one, but I'm just gonna put it to average anyway. So I don't like using so much. Alright. There, you see a fuel tank, storage unit again. That's how we have new units. Yep, and also it kind of explains the game's firing system. Yep, tanks are big and tough. Tanks are usually meant for front line assaults to soak up damage, or usually just meant to protect, you know, vital like weak points of your force or even your base. Sometimes leaving tanks around your base aren't a bad substitute. Yep. Like most units, they can be move or fire, but not always both. There are some units that have that exception. They believe, if I can remember correctly, the scout, the infiltrator, the fighter, ground attack plane. I believe that's it, if I remember correctly. Oh, and the alien attack plane. I believe that's it. Everything else usually. And well, you could count defenses, but defenses don't move, so you never have to worry about that. But yeah, so right here you have hit, so how much damage it can take before it dies. Ammo, how much before it runs out, you have to reload it. Speed is, you know, how many squares it can move, and then shots is how many it can fire a turn. So if I'm not moving this turn, I can fire both my shots. If I move once, I get 1 shot. And also, usually with units that can't always move and shoot all their shots at once, like if it has 1 shot and it moves that turn, you usually can't. You can't fire it. Those units pretty much have to be in position where you want them before you can shoot. But usually if I were to fire a shot, you know, right here or something, I can still move. So most situations, sometimes you'll be shooting maybe once and then you just retreat, or just position yourself better. Yep, scouts have the shortest range of any unit in the game actually. This fired fighter, it's only got 3 range. Most other things have 4. But the thing is, it's got decent scan range. If I zoom out a little. Yeah, 9 is standard, but its range is pretty pitiful. So it can only attack within that circle. But and the grid is also, I think, another good way to see your scan range and what you can see and what you can hit. From right here, right there, you can see the enemy unit. I think it's for the most part, as long as it's at least, I think, half or more than half of like the line covers the unit. So I guess I'll show you an example here. So right there, I can't see it. So right here, normally I would be able to see this scout. But if I move it right there, that's not, I think you could see that, but it's not really in the range. You can see like part of it, But it's also check the game will not show it to you, and if it's right here, you know, that doesn't even actually cover it. But something like right here, you know, that's obviously going to see it, and even right here, it's still for the most part more than half. Usually that's how they judge it. And the same with range. Like if you're right here, it has to move to shoot, or it can't shoot depending on what the unit is. Like I said, this is the shortest range unit in the game, so most of the units will be able to hit that. I'm just gonna spread these units out a little bit. But yeah, scouts are units that hold their shot. Oh, I forgot there wasn't this one. Alright. They won't usually use tanks unless, yeah, you had a reason for it. I'm actually just gonna do the thing. All you can build is light vehicle plants. Yep. Light vehicle plant is building light vehicles such as engineers, truck, mobile repair units, scouts, and mobile aircraft units. Like pretty much every factory, almost every factory type building in the game, you need 3 raw material a turn at normal speed, and then no matter what speed, 1 power from a power station or generator or station. Power stations are more efficient than power generators. It's usually for a power generator, it's 1 power for 2 fuel. For a power station, it's 1 power for 1 fuel. So if you have 3 power generators, it'd use the same fuel as a power station. So I'm just gonna rapidly build this as fast as possible anyway. So actually, I'm gonna move this around, and let's get a gun turret. I'm actually gonna accelerate this building, partially because it is a training exercise, and also I can at this point, I'm actually going to just keep these guys posted around here. Sentry. Sentry usually is when you kind of have a unit just hold still and just shoot whatever comes near it, or whether it's whatever in range. Usually, I think if I remember correctly, in most situations it does it anyway. So I'll show you here. 8 for the sentry function. I'm not sure if I remember if it explains the sentry function. Because usually if you don't have sentry function turned on, you usually have to auto target someone. This doesn't necessarily your unit will ever, you know, not fire back. It's just usually you won't get the first shot off. Scout. I'm gonna try to track it actually. Yep, so normally when you kind of saw it really quick right there, usually whenever you have a new building or unit done, it'll tell you at the top of the screen, this is the turn number, and then this is what you have done. And usually you also view these in messages whenever you finish something. So actually, so yeah, if you're to do messages for anything, you go to reports, and then you go to messages, and then it'll tell you, you know, scout and range. This will be when you put something down, be available, and then you can view usually alert messages. I think as far as I know, the only messages you usually don't view are ones like, you know, you created a unit where you want to, you know, move it out of the factory, your constructor or engineer's done, where do you want to move that, you know, stuff like that. But usually it'll tell you if you got something new, things built, or an enemy unit is in range. And it'll tell you the coordinates of where you're doing it too. So even if the unit, it was there, you still know where the notification showed up. This is the gun turret. Has shorter scan and range, so usually you're relying on, you know, like it says right here, scouts, scanners, or radars to see. It's the most basic defense. It's also the most armored out of all the defenses. with the shortest range. So it's not a bad defense. Usually use it to help protect more lighter defenses, or if you need something quick and it can help, you can usually put it in a good position to help stop some early scout rushes or harassment by putting it, you know, close to where you want to build something. I mean, they could go around, and usually most scouts will see you before that happens, but you know they can't touch you. But they could kind of spy on you in a way if you can't respond. So this is actually a cool little thing right there. If you use the help button down there on the vent, it'll tell you to keep your vent unobstructed. That's a good tip, kids. Don't get your thing unobstructed here. Don't, like, basically, you know, like you have airflow to your computer, don't, make sure you've done what you need to make sure it has proper airflow. You know, you don't want to block it off. So I'm just going to just use this to crank out another storage unit. So at this point we're just waiting for the light big point to be finished. And the scouts are just popping in and out of radar whenever they feel like it. They're not showing good base construction, just slimy as we get it. Normally, when you're doing your base, you want to make sure, usually I have it two ways. You want to build it around, usually build it around your mining stations, and where you need, and also make sure you have space usually in between, like space in between your buildings, because right here, you can't go through this or that. That's why things like connectors are important, and also overall just general building placement. Because sometimes you might miss out a turn or two, or just also get annoyed because you have everything just blocking your base. Because you're kind of, you know, traffic things, especially for like one tile wide sections. You can effectively block off a whole section of your base if you have like an air, if you don't have like, you know, wide enough space or even air transports. Alright, so that's done. I'm gonna go to storage. Let's just, I guess, lock this thing down with gun turrets. Oh no, let's go. I'll be able to move the tank up actually. Yeah, right there, if you usually move diagonally, it'll take 2 spaces the first time you do it, I believe, and then 1 the second time, and then, you know, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, if you're going diagonally. Alright, I can't hit it, I won't be able to get a shot off. Alright, so vehicle plan. What's it let me build? Yep. So the thing about vehicle plant is that every factory, mining station, whatever, it needs power. So if you have only, you know, look at the power like I have right here, I can only power one or the other. Alright, just scouts and engineers and stuff. Usually there's like a list that goes all the way down to here in a normal game. Or in later campaign missions. Apparently the green team had a base. Alright. Alright. So something looks like it takes a little bit longer. Obviously, you build a power generator to operate the light vehicle plant, get 3 scouts, and then build a heavy vehicle plant. Normally, heavy vehicle plants will give you, you know, your extractors so you make more factories and mining stations, and also other really cool big buildings like research centers. And, you know, also gives you heavy units like tanks, missile crawlers, assault guns. Also produces scanners. So, let's get this done. Actually, just build this right off. Position the tanks so it covers this whole side. I'm gonna turn on scan and range. Do some transfers. I'm actually still this one right here. I think you notice these buildings aren't connected to, to the mine. And usually with defense buildings, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because usually if it is connected to a raw material source, what it'll normally do is repair it and refill it each turn. I think usually it just repairs it normally. And it'll refill it if it's empty, but although if it's disconnected, you'll just have to refill it and repair it yourself. If it's connected to a raw material source, it'll just kind of auto do that with some raw material. But if you have like light vehicle plant or power or a mining station not hooked up to any resources or any power at all, or even if you have power but no fuel, then it can't operate. Usually when it comes to factories, you want to have it connected before it turns on. Actually, speed this up here. Repeat just means whatever order you have any of your units here, it will repeat that over and over again at whatever build speed you're doing. You can obviously change the build speed mid unit production if you have enough turns left. Yeah, see right there. Now build up power needed. Power generator is available. So let's turn this on. See, normally if you have this, that's only 3 raw material a turn. Which is times 1 is 3 raw material a turn. Times 2 is 12 raw material a turn. And times 4 is 36 raw material a turn. So usually you only want to go to the higher levels if you know you will still have enough raw material to keep going. And by keep going, I mean you don't want to like drain all the raw material, just trying to pump out your tanks or something. Yep. Yeah, here's right up there. It said it was reacting to an enemy tank at that position, which it did. And that's what Sentry does, is it automatically, if the unit moves, it will target. Because I believe that's just what the Sentry function is. And then, and then obviously each turn, when it uses all its shots that turn, it has to wait to get more. Although, as far as I know, with some units or even structures, if you upgrade the shots per turn, which you can do, you might have to. I think it might get it won't get all 3 back, but it'll just get like 1, I think, if I remember correctly. I played this game a lot, but. Yep, so what I did there was something called path. You can only do it with engineers. And what you do is you click on the building you want at the speed you want, and you click path, and you click wherever you want to in a straight line, kind of like how it moves in chess. Just up or down or left or right. And as long as it has enough raw material, so from where the engineer is, it will just keep building that same thing at the speed you want to that destination until it runs out of raw material, or usually it's just until it runs out of material until you tell it to stop. If it runs out of raw material, it usually will just sit right where it built the last thing, and then if it's like a radar, then you can move it. You have to move it somewhere, or if it's like a connector, then you can just leave it there. I figured I also want to mention it is possible, if you don't pay attention, to get your unit stuck, your constructors and engineers stuck, because it'll tell you to move the engineer, and if you've surrounded it in a way to where it can't move, it's stuck there until either destroy it or clear the way. So watch out for that. So I'm just gonna connect these anyway, so they are connected to the complex that you can't automatically repair. Now I think if I remember correctly, it will automatically repair over time, and it will only refill it, I think, when it's out of ammo. Here. Well, I see a green dot over here, popping in and out. Once I have connectors like this, I'm actually going to use this to create a couple of storage units at fast speed. Usually in most situations when you have like a normal game setup, usually you want to just go for like the basic 2-turn storage unit, because usually only there's raw materials, so you can get the mining stations and the connectors and basic defenses up, and things like scouts and whatever. Actually, I just build another. Turns. Alright, more scouts. I'm actually just going to keep them around the gun turrets to have these extra defensive so they can see them before they come to me. Yeah, so when you're done producing whatever, the screen will be blank. And it won't. You don't need the power. Say only 1 to 2 usage. You can also view power usage from a factory that's connected to a complex. And by complex, I mean it's just a bunch of buildings that are connected together. So if you have like a vehicle plant not connected to like your first complex, it'll only show the usage for usually whatever just that plant or whatever's connected to just that plant. But if you connect to 2 complexes, it'll show it for everything that you have connected to that complex. So yeah, in this game you'll be using a lot of connectors to connect things. I also figured something, if you're not using something, you can turn off the power for it. So right now I've got, I can now produce extra fuel. Because I don't have this on, there's no reason to waste fuel. So if you don't need it, stop it or turn it off. Because you don't necessarily have to, turn it off completely. You can just pause it, like the factories. I can build a scout and pause the scout like the second turn, which usually you can do by hitting cancel on the scout. I guess I'll show you. So 3 turns, and if I cancel like that, it'll say was building scout 3 turns to completion, and then I can start it back up. But in this case, you should also notice that my power generator turned back on to compensate for that. Because usually if you don't have the power on for it, the game will turn on a power station or just a generator for it if you have either one of those available. So I'll just turn this off again, and then I'll stop it. Also, you saw right there, I tried stopping it, but it said you can't turn off other buildings with power. So you want to stop the building first, and then you can stop the power. There's the connector right there, because I'm getting a gun turret hooked up. Oh yeah, I forgot, there's radar. I forgot to mention the radar. I like the radar a lot. It's basically, 18 scan. So you can see quite a distance. Got scanners in this tutorial, there's training mission. So this could alleviate, the whole scan problem. Usually, you can get radars in really important places, like even in the center of your base, just to see around, so you can see scouts coming in or something like that. and just general safety, because remember, you're basically based off whatever you can see here. Like, you see most of the mini-map is kind of has like a dark gray, dark, it's just kind of covered. You see like, you can see the map, but you can't see anything. And what's in like this white sort of section on the mini-map right here, I'll zoom in so it's easier to see. Like right where it's, brighter and white and it's kind of flashing, this is what you can't see. Anything outside of that you can't see. So scanning the skin is really important to avoid, ambushes, give yourself a general sense of safety to where you can see things, so on and so forth. Because there's one other tip which basically says, you can't see what you can't shoot what you can't see. So look like tanks up there. I'm only for that to come to me because it really can't, come to me without getting destroyed. So I have that radar going. This is done. That should be good for the tutorial. Yeah. So I guess this picture is of infiltrators. Looks like a bunch of infiltrators. I'm not seeing any like the bazookas that the regular infantry carry. This is the training hall, which produces infiltrators or infantry in the back, and I don't know what's over here. I can't really see it too well. I think there might be someone. I don't know. It's hard to make it out. But those are the first 3 missions. Just do that for right now. And then you have the tips, which gives you a bunch of tips. But I will put it right there. So, yeah, that was Mechanized Exploration, just like a really basic rundown of the first 3 training missions. So if you want me to actually try to see if I can get any other games along with Starstorm up, I can do that. I can try to get into other things. I'm trying to get OBS to work with some things, which is open broadcasting software. I might have to use another recording thing to get that kind of stuff up, like Yours Revenge and whatever. I'll poke around on that. But other than that, those are the first 3 training missions on M.A.X. If you have any feedback for me, please let me know by message or by comment or whatever you want to do. And this has been Holden Rise of Weird, and I will see you next time.